Hello, welcome back to another episode where we continue to explore the Thor. Last time we made it all the way up to this section right here. So let's keep going to continue exploring this device. So there's an amp right in the middle, and that controls right before you hit this filter, kind of a gain. A velocity section, which basically impacts how loud the sound is based on the velocity of the note. So if we turn all the way up, then low velocity notes, as you see I'm playing them, do nothing. But as we get higher and higher velocity, the amp triggers in. So it's basically kind of like a piano. If you play soft, it doesn't sound very loud. But if you turn the velocity all the way down, then it doesn't really matter what velocity you're hitting. So pretty standard stuff there. And you have a pan left and right. Very exciting. I wonder if there's a way to actually reset these things to 0 easily. I can hit control. I think it just adds automation. Alright, so the next thing we should look at is these LFOs and these filters, mod envelope and global envelope. But in order to really kind of play with those things, we need to understand this modulation bus routing table at the bottom. So what we have here is a way to take a source, let's say a LFO1, this guy, and give it some amount, 100%, let's say, and alter a destination. So let's say the pitch of oscillator 1. So now we're going to use the output of LFO1, this one, to modulate the pitch of oscillator 1. And then we have a amount. So if we turn the amount down to 0, the pitch is not being changed. So that's controlled by this LFO1. So now we can take a look at what that does. We'll explain more of this section in just a bit. So we have a rate parameter which controls the rate of the LFO. Then we have a delay, which is how long to come into effect, how long to wait before the LFO triggers. So here I'm telling it to wait 1 second and then to start the LFO. This keyboard follow is how much the pitch of the note affects the LFO. So here if we play a high pitch note, over here, you can hear the LFO going, the rate getting really high. If we play a low pitch note, it's a lower pitch note. Then we also have the waveform. So we have a sine wave was what we've been doing. We can do a sawtooth. Let's turn off the delay. So all kinds of crazy stuff you can make. Lots of weird sound effects, depending on your rate and what this thing sounds like. Bunch of bleepy boops. All right. So that's kind of LFO1. LFO2, I believe, is... So we also have a tempo sync and a key sync. Key sync, I believe, says to re-trigger it. Re-trigger it when you press the key. Let's make sure that's correct. Let's go look at the LFO docs. So a key sync. Produce a separate LFO cycle for each note played. If key sync is off, the cycles are free running, meaning when you play a note, the modulation may start anywhere in the waveform cycle. And tempo sync is the rate of sync to the tempo sequence or tempo. Then we also have an LFO2, which is, I think, the same thing. You know, same set of waveforms, so we don't need to look at that one. All right, so back to this guy. So we also have, so we have 7, the way this system works is we have 7 slots that a source can modify a destination and be scaled by something. So let's look at how we scale something. So if we go into, like, for example, performance, we can scale it by the mod wheel. So if we turn our mod wheel all the way off, then the LFO is not into effect. Now if we turn our mod wheel halfway, then the mod wheel is halfway into effect. The LFO is halfway into effect. Turn mod wheel all the way up, then the LFO is full into effect. And of course that's modulated by this amount. So if we turn the amount like just a little bit, then the mod wheel has only a slight effect. So that's how that works. So you can even go nuts and say, okay, well, this is modified by LFO2. To make some really wacky sounds. So that's how the scale stuff. So you have 7 slots like this. Then you have 4 slots where you can say a single thing. Let's say LFO1. Let's clear that guy. Modifies a destination, for example, oscillator pitch 1, and also modifies another destination. Let's say oscillator pitch 2. So let's add another oscillator. Let's do a square tooth. Turn that guy on. Why does it sound so crazy? Okay, so now you can hear this LFO is modifying both oscillators. So you can create some crazy, and then you can say, well, okay, well now it's scaled by, let's say, the mod wheel or whatever we want to mod. Or if you want to go nuts, mod LFO2. Change it back to a sine wave. So you can make some pretty crazy effects just by routing with this simple routing table. It's not too bad to mess with. So you have 4 of those where the same source can modify 2 destinations and be scaled by an amount. Then you have 2 that you can say a source, let's say LFO1. Can modify a destination, just like we saw before, the pitch of oscillator 1, but then scaled by, let's say, LFO2, and let's say something else like the mod wheel or whatever you want to say. So now you have LFO2 scaling it and the mod wheel scaling it. So you can do pretty crazy effects there. So I give you a sense of that. Let's also look at, while we're here, we also should look at this mod envelope and global envelope. And these are basically just general purpose that you can rig up. So let's say the mod envelope alters the, let's see, gain. Let's see if we can make that sound interesting. And gain's probably not the best one. All right, so we have so in this one, it's not just an ADSR, it's a delay and an ADR. So we have attack, delay, and release. So if we put our attack at 1 second, we can hear it kind of kick up and then immediately cut down. So we can put our delay up. So we can hear the delay in effect. And then we have release. See if we can hear the release. And I don't think we can hear the release on this one because we're not, we don't have this. Yeah, we need to look at this amplifier section a little bit. So we also have a delay, so we can, so if we hear this one, so we can put this back at a second. And so we're delaying for 1 second before this takes an effect. And this will take an effect, and the attack is 1 second. So we can put a delay in and then trigger this ADR. We can also loop this thing. To create some kind of weird sound effect. And it's only looping this ADR stuff in the delay. It's not looping the release. Gate triggers basically triggers when you play a note, and tempo sync is what we saw before. So we can also use this global envelope, which is very similar with an ADSR, but also a delay and hold. So we have so if we put all this stuff down, we have our attack like we saw before, our delay like we saw before, and then we can loop that. Then we have a delay like we saw before. But then we also have this hold. So if we put the hold, let's say, to 2 seconds. So now the hold stopped it. And then it's going to continue on. So hold's almost like a timeout. Let's put these shorter so you can actually hear it better. So there's a 1 second hold. So if we turn the hold off, it just constantly does these delay, attack, and the delay, attack, and decay. But with the hold, it's cut out. All right, so this one also has a sustain, so you can actually use this for sustaining. So you can hear it there, it's sustaining. So you can set the value to what you want it to sustain at. So it's kind of neat. The amplifier section is kind of a standard ADSR. So let's take a look at that. Let's clear this guy. So if we put the attack up, you can hear it take a while to build up to attack. And then we have a decay section. So we can put that into sustain, and as it passes the decay, it will actually get pretty dim. If we put that low, and then we have a release. So if I release the note, the release timer comes on. So I'm releasing the note, and you can still hear it. If I set that release to very quick, as soon as I release that note, it goes away. If I set that release to long, you'll hear the note after I release the thing. So it's almost like a ring, a piano ring. All right, so that's pretty much all these sections, as well as this modulation routing table thing. One thing we haven't looked at is the chorus. So let's kind of reset back to where we were. All right, so we have a chorus and delay effects. So let's turn on the chorus. So we have a dry wet knob, so 100% dry is what we heard before. 100% wet is with the chorus. Then we have a delay. I think it's kind of hard to hear the delay. You can kind of hear it if I sweep it back and forth. And then it gets kind of nuts if I set the chorus feedback up high. Gets really crazy if I set the amount really high and the rate really high. So that's pretty weird. Delay is the same kind of stuff where we have a dry wet knob, but what it's doing is delaying. So you can actually hear when I release the note. So you can produce some weird sound effects with this thing. If you turn up the rate really high and give it a bunch of feedback. So, all right, I think that's a good look at pretty much all the UI except for this step sequencer as well as the back. All right, see you next time.